Rob, Michael Jordan sometimes would kind of drum up these narratives just to kind of get himself motivated and, it's him against the world, or somebody called him out, or, even you think about his Hall of Fame speech and all the people he said motivated him, that he
trashed everybody.
Yes.
I think if he would have rethink that on your moment, your great moment and great career and everything, that you used that to trash, like the guy who beat you out on the high school basketball team and your high school basketball coach. Dude, that was just so tacky. I'm sorry. I love Michael Jordan as a player, but I thought that was tacky.
At first, I myself and others thought it was, you kind of chuckling. That guy made the high school team over Jordan. And then there was another one. It was like, yeah, okay. And then it kept going. And then it started getting uncomfortable. That's when, you could see people in the crowd like, that's like the seventh person that he just
never stopped.
It
never stopped. It was ridiculous.
It was. But he used that obviously as motivation. And LeBron, I say he took a page out of Jordan's book in this regard, and I'm fine with it. But if it's false, sometimes you got to call things out. And I think this whole Eastern Conference thing, this East-West thing that LeBron has really been on, and he talked about, is he the MVP this year? Well, they held it against me when I played in the East, which I don't think was true. And then now, by the Lakers winning last night, they locked up the number 1 seed. And LeBron, again, kind of brought up this narrative that nobody thought he could do it in the West. And Rob G., read the quote that LeBron had.
Well, Chris, he started out after the game immediately playing the company line. He said it's a huge accomplishment for our franchise to know where we've been the last few years, to be able to know we're the number 1 seed in the West. It's easy enough, right? Then he got pressed about it in the locker room and said this to Tanya Ganguly, LA Times. He said, since 2010, they said I couldn't do it. I'll enjoy this one, he said while he's grinning, because they said I can't do it, end quote.
Can't do what? Can't do what? Chris, tell me, can't do what?
We assume, Rob G., you see the story. From the context it was put in, the assumption is they said he couldn't have the number 1 seed in the West, right? That's what, since 2010.
No, that's not what people were saying.
No. That's why I say, and again, if this is LeBron saying, you know what, this is motivating me to shut some mouths and win it all, I'm fine with it. Whatever makes you tick. But this is a false narrative.
Thank you.
100%
a false narrative.
Look, Rob, would anybody in their right mind have said LeBron James still in his prime and that Anthony Davis right in the middle of his prime couldn't get the number 1 seed in the West? I don't care how good the West was. Anybody would have said that's a possibility with that type of squad, with those 2 stars. And the East-West narrative for LeBron had nothing to do with the MVP. It had nothing to do with the number 1 seed. It was simply, you wouldn't have gone to 8 straight finals had you been in the West.
Thank you.
That's all it was. And I don't even know how much that was out. I mean, obviously people said it because it's just an obvious conclusion. But was that drumbeat that loud that people were ripping LeBron for losing? You, Rob, one of them. They were ripping him for losing 5 straight or 6 finals overall. But nobody was saying it was cheap because you got the East. Now, he dominated the East. We were saying it's easier in the East, which it was. It was.
No, I just think that this is it. This whole idea. I think he saw, Chris, the votes from the writers, or at least what people were leaning towards for the MVP, and is trying to. I don't know. Will your votes already have to be cast?
The votes have been in. Yeah, the votes were cast last Tuesday. Was the deadline.
So he can get off of that because that's what it sounded like to me. Like let me rub this ointment to try to get people to understand. What I did or whatever. Nobody said he couldn't win a conference. We even know that back in the East, he was the one who took his foot off the gas because it's not that important.
And that's the thing. Like, the reason LeBron didn't win any MVPs his last go-round in Cleveland those last 4 years was because they coasted through the regular season.
Right.
They won like 50, 51, 53, and 57 games.
Those games don't matter. You realize that as you get older, Chris, and you're in a situation. And
that seemed to be his mentality, right? When he was in the East with Cleveland the last go-round. Like, none of this matters. I just we'll be ready for the playoffs. And this year, now, look, did he take some motivation maybe from last year? From people saying, oh, you didn't even make the playoffs, which I thought was ridiculous because he was injured. But you were one that ripped him up for that. So if that's what he's saying, okay. But
yeah. But last year, remember, he did come back, and they were in the mix. It wasn't like they were totally wiped out. They were in the mix and lost some bad games to bad teams with LeBron playing. That was really my point. Is like, you can say he was hurt, but he did come back. And there were games on the table, Chris, where they weren't out of the playoffs, and we saw them lose. That's all. Those are facts.
That's true. It was Atlanta, Memphis.
Remember that
some
stretch?
Bad teams. Yep.
Just bad teams that they lost to. So if you want to say that, okay, but the whole notion that people said you couldn't win the division or the conference or whatever, I don't remember that. It was how easy it was in the East and getting to the finals that many times. Wasn't anything you could hang your hat on. It would be like people not making a big deal about the New England Patriots winning the AFC least every year, Chris. They just, with the Buffalo Bills and the Jets, right? Nobody made
if they kept winning the division and then kept losing in the playoffs, people would say that.
People would say the same exact thing. What's the big deal about you? But they went on to win. So that negated. Nobody made a big deal about it. But LeBron with this is like some false narrative. That's exactly what it is. LeBron coming up with something, dude. I just don't get it. And ultimately, Chris, and I'm glad, because he put it out there. So if they don't win and they don't get to the finals or win the finals, then what will be the excuse then? Because you will have won the conference. You were the best team in the conference, right? The tough West, and you didn't win the championship.
Well, that's what I think. I think the two things he has to be careful of in kind of putting this out there is that, remember, you also have Anthony Davis. So when he says, I can't do it, like if he went there and with that team last year.
Thank you.
And they became the number 1 seed, then I think, again, the East-West thing is false, but that'd be something to be like, man, wow, But you added Anthony Davis, and Davis was huge. I mean, LeBron still was the best player, but Davis was a huge part of it. He's a top 5 player in the league. And so you don't want to come off like you're belittling his addition either. It wasn't like you just did it by yourself.
In every category, Chris, except for assists.
Yep.
So don't act like that you did it by yourself and there's nobody else there.
You have one of the great players.
About, You got to
And
don't
to
act
your point,
like that.
To your point, Rob, nobody's going to remember this number 1. And LeBron knows this as well as anybody. Because as we said, in Cleveland, he didn't really care that much about the number 1 seed.
Well, because you know what? Even home court, right, Chris?
Championships.
You lose game 1 in the playoffs, what? You gave up home court.
Yeah, and it's gone. This year, it don't even matter.
Right.
For the West, it matters for the first round, I say, because whoever you get in the 8th seed, Portland, Memphis, New Orleans, San Antonio, they're going to be significantly worse than that 7th seed team. Dallas, OKC, somebody like that.
But home court doesn't matter.
But home court is nothing. So, and just in general, what LeBron's got to do is win the championship. It's not going to be about winning this number 1 seed. And like I said, he knows it as well as anybody. All right.